What's going on YouTube? Cloverbills here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're continuing on with our regulationI team building content, and we're going to be looking at Calyrex Ice Rider and Miraidon today. So this was a pair that was asked in my previous video when we did the Shadow Rider and the Zamazenta building video, or quite a few of you asked for Ice Rider and Miraidon, and this was already going to be my second one anyway, because I think it's just one of the strongest pairings that you can use right now, and we have a whole list of pairings that we're going to be doing. So just be patient. We'll get to the big meta ones first, and then we'll do some of the more niche ones as the format progresses, of course. But we got to do the super standard stuff first, and this is one of them. By the way, if you look in our video, we have a new 6 lined up there. That is Lunala Miraidon. That is the 6 I'm currently using, and I love Grimmsnarl, by the way. So I think Grimmsnarl is really good this format. And by the way, in the builds that we're going to show you with Miraidon and Calyrex, there is a Grimmsnarl involved here. Okay, but anyway, so we're going to showcase you a couple of different teams here, and by a couple I mean 6. Yes, I like Miraidon Calyrex very much. I think it might be my favorite pairing besides Lunala Miraidon, because I just like how it feels and how it plays, you know, just because of who I am as a player. But I'm gonna give you 6 variants that you can try and test in the beginning, just to get your early format testing going, right? But a lot of this stuff kind of just involves using Miraidon cores and then just slapping on Calyrex. And there's quite a few Miraidon cores that you can definitely use, but the super standard one is just this. You have Farigiraf and you have Iron Hands here. Okay, and this can be used on both Calyrex and Miraidon, because again, the Iron Hands is, you know, a slow, bulky physical attacker. It's got fake out pressure, which you can use to set up your trick room. It's also, a good partner with Miraidon. It gets enabled by Miraidon because of Cork Drive, you know, the electric terrain stuff. And it's really good into the mirror, right? Both Miraidon and Calyrex. So I think Iron Hands, will be used on almost all of these Miraidon Calyrex team compositions that I'm going to show you. Then these last 2 slots here can be up for grabs depending on how you want to play the squad, but this is always just going to be a good starting point, these 4, in my opinion. Okay, now from here you can have stuff like Whimsicott, of course, and, you know, if you want to go for like the fast mode here with Miraidon, or you can even go the defensive slower route where you can go with Grimmsnarl. We have seen some Regulation G teams with both Ice Rider and Miraidon that have been able to use Grimmsnarl relatively well. So I think Grimmsnarl very, very splashable right now on a lot of different teams. And I think it's even better this format than it was in Regulation G, because of the fact that you have more legendaries clicking big broken spread moves. And, you know, with insane attacking or special attacking stats, you need a way to mitigate that damage. The same way you needed to do that in Sword and Shield during the Dynamax era, where you can't just keep letting things go for broken max airstream for base 120 plus damage, okay? And then having a Calyrex next to it clicking base 100 plus Astro Barrage, right? You can't do that. So I think Grimmsnarl in this format almost can go within the S tier, at least for me, okay? But tier list another time, okay? But anyway, you can definitely go Whimsicott, Grimmsnarl stuff depending on how you want to build the team. You can also slap on these Ogre Pawns, whether you go with the Heart Flame or if you go with the Cornerstone. I think either one is good. You know, we have seen Heart Flame and Cornerstone be played on both Miraidon and Calyrex teams. So if you want to go that direction, you definitely can. It just depends on how you want to build the squad. And sometimes even Urshifu can come here, whether it be the single strike or the rapid strike one. I think they both fit in relatively well, because again, Urshifu, one of the S tier mods, very standard staple that you can have on a lot of different teams. Of course, this is already long established, but this is just already these 4. Okay, start here, and then after that you can get a little bit more variance with the rest of the squad here. So I'm going to show you 6 builds, okay, and I'll show you a couple test games of us using each build, so this way you can kind of get a sense on how to play or how to use each of the squads here, and then hopefully any of these 6 will give you a decent starting point into using this pair. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our first build. So before we even just get into our first build with the Ice Rider and the Miraidon, understand why these 2 work so well together. They cover for each other's main weaknesses, especially with what's relevant in the meta right now. Again, with the Calyrex Ice Rider, sometimes you're going to struggle against like bulky water types, especially Kyogre. Your high horsepower is only hitting it for neutral damage, and unless you already have a couple of as-1 boosts going, you know, you're not just going to KO. And then Glacial Lance gets resisted because water resists ice. So you need some way to put pressure against the water types, and that's where Miraidon comes into play. Same thing with Iron Hands too, right? If you choose to run Wild Charge on it. But I think Miraidon just really helps compensate for, you know, the lack of being able to hit those water types here. And then at the same time, Miraidon can struggle against ice types, can also struggle against ground types, especially like Landorus Incarnate, for example. So what do you need to hit ground types? You know, one way to do that is with an ice type, and that's where Calyrex really comes into handy, right? So they both do relatively well with each other. And then Iron Hands just supports both of them, especially, you know, things against like Incineroar, where Ice Rider sometimes can't really go for high horsepower. Sometimes you do need the fighting coverage from the Iron Hands here. It's going to help you, especially also against Chi-Yu, especially if you have an Assault Vest here. It's going to help you a lot into those ideas as well. So I think from here, where do we go? We'll go with the standard stuff. We'll go with Whimsicott here for the speed control, and then standard ideas with Tailwind, Moonblast, Encore, and then Light Screen here for just to be able to reduce special attack damage here. By the way, Encore, really, really good move right now. And then after this, then we'll get the Ogerpon Heart Flame here, like we mentioned earlier. Again, a nice solid redirector here. Does well into Rillabooms. And that's also something that can give Miraidon a little bit of issue. Like if things want to pivot their Rillaboom, right, just to be able to take away terrain, they're going to have to face Ogerpon and Calyrex Ice Rider now. So that's another reason why it's also a really, really solid pair with it. But, you know, just to be able to have something to be able to click Follow Me, and then you also have Fake Out Pressure. You can set up your Trick Room like we mentioned earlier. And then same thing here with Miraidon here. You can have a redirector, pressure the Rillabooms early, and then Miraidon can just kind of go bonkers, hiding behind the redirection support from this Ogerpon, right? But anyway, so this is the first 6 that we're going to show you. So how do we round this out here? So Glacial Lance, High Horsepower, Trick Room, and then Protect here. Very standard stuff. I think Clear Amulet is one of the better items that you can have on the Ice Rider, if not the best item that you can have. I like Fire right now. This way I don't get burned by Will-O-Wisp, and then I'm able to resist Steel and Fire coverage against the Calyrex here, and then take neutral damage from Ghost and Dark type attacks. I think Fire is relatively solid all in all. Then we have Miraidon here. Of course, the standard choice spec set here with Electro Drift for your big damage nuke, your Volt Switch in case you need to get the heck out if things change terrain on you, you know, pivot right on out. And then you have Dazzling Gleam. You can pressure, or you can put out pressure against like the Urshifus for that matter. And also stuff like Chien-Pao, you know, with that wants to come and click its ice move against Miraidon, you can click Dazzling Gleam and really hamper those ideas. Okay, and then of course finally your big nuke in Draco Meteor, your single target nuke. So if you just need a one hit KO button, you know, usually you'll click your Electro Drift, but sometimes you also need to click Draco just because you know, you might want to click something against a Dragon Terra, for example, right? But this is very standard already. Farigiraf here, we can go Electric Seeds, and then just go Terra Water, be able to resist Urshifu Surging Strikes. Psychic Noise is really good against another Iron Hands. It can't heal with Drain Punch. It's also pretty good against Amoonguss. Foul Play, great against both Calyrexes. Then you need Trick Room, and then you have Helping Hand here. Sometimes I have seen the Roar tech where you can use this against your own Miraidon, because what you can do is click something like Draco Meteor, nuke something, you're -2. You have to hard switch, but now you don't. Otherwise, you just click Roar. You side roar your Miraidon out, bring something else in, and Miraidon can come back in later. But if you don't want to do that, you can definitely just go for Helping Hand here. The Iron Hands, I like Bug right now. I think Bug is a great Terra, and just be able to have the ground resist, and then at the same time neutral from the fairy damage all in all. It's just a nice Terra to have on Iron Hands right now. I like it a lot. Where's the Bug Terra? Yeah, there we go. But otherwise, Fake Out Pressure. You do have Drain Punch over here. Low Kick is very good against Ice Rider. It pretty much just takes it down to half. And then from here, you can have Wild Charge, or you can also have Heavy Slam here. We're going to show you both builds on a lot of these teams, you know, just so that you get a sense of what we're doing. But you can give up the Wild Charge and just go for Heavy Slam because you already have a Miraidon. Otherwise, if you really feel like you want the Wild Charge there, then you can definitely do it. But sometimes when things go Terra Fairy, like a Lunala or a Calyrex Shadow Rider, you need something to nuke it with, and a good solid steel coverage move is one way to do that. But to each their own. Anyway, Whimsicott here, we can go with the Covert Cloak. You don't get faked out here. Prankster Terra Dark here, so they can't taunt you. And then Ogerpon here is also standard with Ivy Cudgel, Wood Hammer, Follow Me, and Spiky Shield here, right? But yeah, this is the essence of what we have here for this first 6. So just with the Ice Rider, let's slap on some EVs here. I like going Adamant. You can go Brave Nature, but Adamant is also pretty good just into the mirror matchup. You can be the faster Calyrex outside of Trick Room. Here, I'm just going to go to the bump here at 231 investment here, but I'm going to go 1 point more just for the even number when I get the +1 boost after I get a KO there, right? Because if I have an odd number like this times 1.5 gives me a decimal, and decimal rounds down in Pokemon. So we want a nice solid even number like this. And then this way our 1.5 boost is nice and strong. Okay, now I did say we go to the EV bump here, the third bump here. Now, if you don't know what EV bumps are, and if you're trying to get better at competitive Pokemon, and if you don't know how they work, make sure you comment below asking what are EV bumps. I will reply and respond to you, but hopefully you get a sense of where we are here. But I also made a whole video on this, on what are EV bumps, but still, if you don't know what they are, comment below asking what are EV bumps and I will explain them to you. But this is the third bump. You see how I go from 229 to 231. I skip the 230 and then I just go 1 point more for the 232 mark, okay? Then I'll have a little bit of speed, just some speed here. So this way, if I'm playing a best of 3, and if I'm going up against another Iron Hands, for example, or another Ice Rider, and if they outspeed me, then I know they have some speed investment there, right? So they're probably Adamant, right? Instead of Brave Nature, which is good information for me, especially in a Game 1 scenario. After this, I'll just dump the rest here into Special Defense. The Miraidon here. So there's two ways to approach this matchup. You can just go straight 252 Modest in the early get-go for the meta stuff if you're not really sure what to really calc for. This is also like a very common Miraidon set to use. Otherwise, if you really want to just win the speed tier mirror, you can just go for Timid Miraidon and outspeed the other Modest Miraidons. You'll take a hit from damage, but you got a lot of damage from Calyrex, Iron Hands, and Ogerpon here, so you can definitely opt to go for Timid if you really want to. Otherwise, if you really want to just go for Modest, you know, that is also an option. If you do go Modest, I do definitely recommend a little bit of investment to survive stuff like you know, Iron Hand stuff like low kick or even the Chen Pao attacks there, but we'll get into that when we show you a different variant where we put some bulk on a Modest set. Anyway, Farigiraf here, what I like to do, I like to go Bolt here, and I like to just go for a nice solid factor of 16 number just in case Rillaboom comes and changes terrain. Therefore, I get, you know, optimal optimal grassy terrain recovery from that Rillaboom. And then what I want is just to invest here into the second benchmark here. Same scenario, just like Calyrex. I don't want to leave this at an odd number. I want to go to a nice even number like this. So this way my numbers round out nicely after the electric seed boost. But, you know, I also just want to straight up survive Urshifu stuff. So, you know, the Terra Water can also just help me do that. Then I can just have, you know, 1 or 2 points in speed, 1 point in special attack, and dumping the rest here into special defense. Nice 103 magic number there for my Spadef there. Okay, Iron Hands here. This one we can definitely go Brave. So this way we can outspeed the other Ice Riders, for example, especially if they're Adamant. I will just go 84 investment here just for, again, optimizing the Rillaboom terrain calc. I want to max my Spadef here just to get the full value out of my Assault Vest here. It's a nice solid even number, which is what I want. And then after this, you know, this is where the second bump is, you know, at 198. But then you just have a couple more points, you know, in our 16 points left over. So you can just dump the rest into attack. And now you're at 200, which is a nice solid attacking stat if you ask me, especially after a Core Drive boost. The Whimsicott here. So what I like to do with this Whims, I like to add some bulk here, but you know, because I am Covert Cloak here, but just about this much, 140, you know, just to outspeed Landorus. And then after that, I'll go to 236 HP investment with about 100 Spadef here. This is to take one Electro Drift from a Miraidon into raid, right? I can survive and live to tell the tale. And then the rest can just go into defense and 1 point in special attack, of course. But that's really all I want out of my Whimsicott. Outspeed Landorus, okay, survive Miraidon Electro Drift, and that's it. You know, just a little bit more bulk in defense there. The Ogerpon, what I want to do a couple things, okay? 2 things. First, I will go Jolly instead of Adamant. And I want to go to about 157, which is good enough to outspeed the fastest Kyogres. So I could potentially just hit him hard with a Wood Hammer. I could do that also with Adamant Nature, right? If I go with this investment, okay, 212, which I have done before, but I want to do something else with some of those extra EVs here. But you can either do it with Adamant 212 or just the Jolly 100 over here. which I think is good enough. And then what I want to do is just add enough bulk where I can survive the Urshifu Surging Strikes, add him in 252 Terra Water, right? So that calc looks like this, 188, right? And then 52 investments. This will survive that Urshifu calc. And then you have 168 EVs left here. You can just put 1 point in the Spadef and then just dump the rest into attack like this. If you really want to, you can leave it at 156. But you know, you're going to tear this and get a nice flat even number. You know, you could put at 161 here, or otherwise you can just drop it and just put 1 more point into special defense there, right? So that's what our Ogerpon's supposed to do. Survive the Urshifu calc, outspeed Kyogre, and then the rest just goes into attack stat, okay? Then that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, so like this is a very easy starting build that you can do with Calyrex Miraidon stuff, right? So I'll put this here on the screen, okay? And now what we'll do is we'll try it out for a couple games on ladder and let's see how it works out. But this is our first variant. All right, so this is a bit of a weird one here, but again, this is like early ladder stuff. So this is Regigigas Weezing, and then you have Kyogre and Eternatus. That's an interesting pairing. I don't know if that's the first pairing I would choose to build in regulationI, but here it is. So right away we see a Kyogre, which again looks really good for Miraidon here, and then the Eternatus and even Rillaboom that want to come to Miraidon are really weak to the Calyrex. Now that being said, the Eternatus can have like fire moves there. Draco Meteor's still gonna hurt a lot, especially if it's specs. So we have to be aware of that. I think the Weezing can definitely come to this. What he has as the other option, I'm not really sure. But again, we'll see how he decides to play this here. So let's play it. But I want to at least lead the Ogerpon just to have a redirector with my Calyrex and see what's up, at least from the early get-go. And I can pressure Kyogre if he does lead it. But it is Weezing and Eternatus for lead, so no abilities here, which is, again, fine. So he goes Terra Poison immediately, not wanting to take a potential Glacial Lance. I want to redirect just in case he wants to potentially taunt or Will-O-Wisp my Calyrex. Goes for Sludge Bomb, and there is the Will-O-Wisp, right? So now this is a free Trick Room for my Calyrex, more or less. I mean, I did take damage from Ogerpon here. There's a Protect there, that's fine. You know, Glacial Lance and the Ivy Cudgel Terrifier just kills this Eternatus for sure, right? Ogerpon is strong. Gambit, right? Again, could have Kowtow Cleave, which does go into my Ogerpon instead of my Calyrex. I click Glacial Lance. Could have also clicked High Horsepower here, especially against Weezing. And I do take the burn, right? Which is fine. But I get some chip damage into King Gambit here because Trick Room is out. Now he goes into Rillaboom. So dodging the Drain Punch, that's still good damage. And then I click High Horsepower. I don't get the KO on the Weezing. And there is another Will-O-Wisp going to my Iron Hands. So I have 2 Pokemon burned here, but look at this board state. Like, I still have Calyrex in front of a Rillaboom here. Now he's forced to go back into Gambit. You know, Trick Room is expiring, which means Miraidon's looking pretty good afterwards, right? There's a Strange Thief that, again, does a lot, but doesn't kill. But now I'm confused, which is kind of bad. So I want to just reset that. Let's go back into hands here, okay? He does go for Protector, which is fine. And I'm also going to Protect because I want to do Fake Out plus a move next turn. Potentially, I could also click Drain Punch into that Gambit. Strange Theme, not enough. You know, we have an AV. Glacial Lance, able to remove this Gambit here. And I did notice that I do outspeed it, so that means this Gambit doesn't have a lot of speed, or he's probably brave. But again, Drain Punch just picks up the Gambit here. It's taken a lot of chip. It's 4 times weak. Even a burned Iron Hands can beat a Gambit. And now he just has a Rillaboom. So notice how he doesn't even have a Kyogre, right? And I asked this person, you know, afterwards, where was the Kyogre? And he says, too many electrics. Okay, and there it is. We have the Iron Hands, we have the Miraidon. So he did not bring his Kyogre. And sometimes you do have that scare against them just because you have too many electric types on your side. So again, we're just letting this play out. But of course, Calyrex is just able to clean up against a Rillaboom in the end game, right? So even though I had 2 burned physical attackers, I'm still able to pull this off just because, you know, Calyrex is busted and so is Iron Hands. All right, so this one's Miraidon and Rayquaza. That's another interesting pairing there, but expected if they really fear Koraidon and Kyogre stuff. I think Rayquaza could be a little bit better this format. I think it is a little bit better this format, but I don't think it's enough better where you want to give your second restricted slot to it. But you know, you never know. We'll see how the format progresses. Anyway, I see a couple fake out guys. You know, Farigiraf is an option here. We can even set up Trick Room against him. And go the Iron Hands Calyrex route with Miraidon in the endgame potentially. Otherwise, I can just match him with Whimsicott here. And against the other fake out guys, I can just encore them. You know, I can't encore instant, of course, but If he does go with the Rillaboom, then we'll see what happens, right? But there is a Flutter Mane there, so interesting enough there. I'm not sure if they want to bring that, but we'll have to wait and see how they play this. But I'm gonna start with my own Whimsicott and my own Miraidon just to see how he decides to lead this. He goes with Instant and he goes with their own Whimsicott. Instant Whimsicott is an interesting lead. Usually you saw this a little bit more in like Sword and Shield, but yeah. So he fakes out my Miraidon. Okay, goes for his own Light Screen, and I just go for a free chip into his Whimsicott there, right? So that's fine. And now what I can do is encore their Whimsicott, so they're just stuck clicking Light Screen. And even though I know this is not a KO against Instant, it does enough chip where I can put it in range later on there. So there comes the Parting Shot, which is okay. Miraidon's -1, here comes Flutter Mane. I don't want to lose Miraidon to that, so I'm just going to go into Calyrex. I have a Light Screen up. I'm fine here. I can take a Shadow Ball if he does go for that slot. But back into Instant. All right, maybe wanting to resist Glacial, who knows? But I'm going to go for Light Screen here. It goes for Icy Wind. I don't know why. I have a Covert Cloak and I'm a Calyrex. I don't know why he did that, but yeah. I'm going to go into Iron Hands now, okay? And I take Shadow Ball damage. Like, I'm honestly surprised the power kills, okay? I probably could have even Terra'd here. I just thought I would live a Shadow Ball plus an instant move there, but I don't, okay? Anyway, but I still have Miraidon here, so I can just Terra Fairy, blow up the instant. Flutter Mane does a lot, but not that much to Iron Hands. Look at this. Light Screen and AV. We just kill. We have Wild Charge here. And now he's down to Whimsicott in the back. Not a whole lot of momentum there. And there is his Miraidon here, right? And we still have Light Screen here. So we're looking pretty good. Goes Electric Miraidon here. And he is faster. He goes for the Electric Drift. Kills my Miraidon. Okay, so I lose both my restrictions. But look at the power of Low Kick into that Miraidon. Look at that. Okay, now we encore their Whimsicott, so that's going to neutralize them. Electric Drift does very little damage, all right? And now we just killed the Miraidon with Low Kick there, right? And now it's just a 2-on-1. He can't win. He's stuck clicking Encore Tailwind, and that's pretty much it. So even though we lost both of our restricteds, Light Screen and Encore are really good moves, and we stopped a lot of their damage, and then that was what let our Iron Hands be able to clean up in the end game. Okay, the second variant that I'm going to show you is going to involve Grimmsnarl instead of the Whimsicott here. So if we slap that on, that's what we're looking for here. Now, we will still maintain the Farigiraf and the Ogerpon Heartflame here. Now, I have taken the Iron Hands here. Now, you can technically still go with the Iron Hands here, and it's going to be a great Pokemon to have, especially under screens. It just doesn't die, especially when you have the Assault Vest. And then, Fake Out Screens is really good. And then you get another Trick Room Setter with the Calyrex here. I think this build is going to be great. Otherwise, if you don't do the Iron Hands route, you can still go with Urshifu Rapid Strike here. So you get a little bit of a faster Pokemon behind the screens. And then at the same time, you get a little Fire, Water, Grass core going with the Urshifu. Now, again, trying to run Miraidon without Iron Hands seems a little crazy. But there are good Miraidon teams that don't use Iron Hands, but they do use the Urshifu stuff. So I do like this. And this is where two builds come into play. Like one with the Urshifu and one with the Iron Hands. I think they're both good. Feel free to try either one of them. But I do like Screens. I think Screens is so good. Just ruining a ton of damage calcs is exactly what we want here. So I'm going to go with Light Clay over here. And I will go Terra Ghost here just in case. Sometimes I don't necessarily want to bring the Farigiraf. I think Foul Play is very good into both the Shadow Rider and the Ice Rider. Foul Play almost one-shots a non-bulked Shadow Rider, so keep that in mind. Light Screen, Reflect are very good, and then of course Thunder Wave here. One Parahax is all it needs to take to win a set here, right? So you can do that. You can slow things down. Miraidon can outspeed later on. Then the Farigiraf stays the same almost. The only thing I will change here, just to give you another option, is this is where you can go for Roar and opt for the Miraidon stuff with Draco Meteor. I will opt to change up my Miraidon set here. I will do this, where you can go modest, but still max speed, and then have a little bit of bulk here. 1 point for Rillaboom, Grassy Terrain Recovery, and then 36 investments. This is what's going to let you survive, and the low kick opposing Iron Hands Adamant 252, right? And I think that's important there, especially if it's a Cork Drive Iron Hands there. And then after that, this last point here, you can put this wherever you want, but you just put a little bit into attack there. So this way you get a nice even 200 there for our Miraidon set here. So slower Miraidon, but of course it's modest nature. It's going to hit harder than the timid one, and we have exactly what we need, with screen support. The Ogerpon Heartflame, what we can do here with the EV set, I'm going to show you a different spread there. If you like our old one that we showed you in the first variant, you can definitely use that one. Otherwise, you can use this one where we can go about 196 here, right? This is going to be enough to outspeed a Landorus. And then you can just max the attack here and then just put 60 EVs into HP. You can definitely do this Ogerpon. This is another one that you can use if you don't like our other EV set. I'm just giving you options into what you can play. This EVs, you can pretty much stay the same. The Urshifu here, we can go Mystic Water, right? You can also go Sash here if you don't want the just straight damage. You can definitely do a Focus Sash Urshifu here. It also does make sense if you want to, but otherwise you can go Mystic Water for more damage, all right? And then Close Combat. No, actually, you know what you can do? Yeah, just Aqua Jet here, Taunt, and then Protect or Detect, either one, right? But you do need Jet plus, like, you know, Miraidon stuff will definitely pick up a lot of KOs. You don't necessarily need the Close Combat here. I think it just does fine without it, but you know, in this case, if you really want to, you can definitely put Close Combat here instead of the Taunt. I think it works out relatively well, but otherwise you can definitely just do something like this where you have max speed Adamant, right? And then you have 156 just at the benchmark there. And then, but this will do like 44 investment and 52 speed F with light screen. This is good enough to survive a modest Pelipper Hurricane behind the screens, right? And then this is also enough bulk to survive Dragonite, Chetpal, you know, E-Speed stuff from Dragonite, but there's not too many of that running around as of this moment there. But you still have the main calc where you can outspeed and do tons of damage. I'm sorry, max speed and do tons of damage with Adamant 156 here. And of course, the Pelipper defensive calc. The Grimmsnarl here, we can just keep it standard first. We'll use like one of our classic Grimmsnarl sets here. Just go Impish Nature, almost max HP here, 1 point in the attacking stat. Okay. And then after this, you can go, what is it, to the Sponge benchmark here, 116. Tiny bit of speed investment just to see where you stand against like other Incineroars, and then dumping the rest into special defense there. And then over here, the Calyrex can pretty much stay the same. And this is one variant, right? This is the Urshifu variant, right? So if you like this one, you know, try it out. Otherwise, if you want, instead of the Urshifu, you want the Iron Hands, all right, then you can just pretty much copy paste like what we had before, right? And I think I will do that over here. So you can go with the Iron Hands over here. And then this time, if you really don't want the Wild Charge, you can definitely do like Heavy Slam stuff. And this is the other variant that you can do with Grimmsnarl. So this one is the Iron Hands variant, and then this one is the Urshifu variant. I think both work out relatively fine. It just all depends on how you want to do it. I think I may tend leads towards this one here. You know, I think Iron Hands is just kind of busted, but you know, Urshifu is also busted in itself, right? So we can try out both just to see how it plays out. But yeah, this is what I got for Grimmsnarl stuff. All right, so this is a Kyogre and a Calyrex Ice Rider pairing here, and there is the Roaring Moon that has Tailwind. He has a Landorus, which we do expect to come against Miraidon, but does he want to bring in against the Ice Rider? So this is what I'm talking about here. And, you know, I'm counting the ice weaknesses there. There are 3. Okay, so yeah, he does have to make a decision there. But I do think, you know, again, he has to think, do I want to bring Kyogre? Because, again, there is a Miraidon that we have on our side. And this is also where, like, Grimmsnarl looks really good here just for screen support and foul play pressure into his own Ice Rider here. So we can honestly just start with Grimmsnarl and then just mitigate damage. And then let's see what we can do with Calyrex and our Miraidon here. So I'm going to start with Miraidon Grimmsnarl here. He does have a Mungus, he does have Landorus, which is fine. He can't click Spore because of our terrain. I don't want to be in front of the Landorus though, so I just want to deal some chip first. Get out. There's my light screen. Let's go into Calyrex. Let's have our Ice type in front of the Ground and Grass type here. And then we're going to ask him to make a choice. Either he protects, he switches, or he terras, right? So I'm going to go into Urshifu here just in case he does go into Kyogre, which he does do. All right, and there is the Terra. That is forced from the Landorus. Sandstorm does a lot, okay? But we do have Light Screen, and it does help us a little bit. Otherwise, we would have got cooked there. Okay, I just protect Calyrex here. I just want to do some chip into the Ogre here. Now, I could have also probably just did this into Landorus. Probably, maybe even KO there because Landorus doesn't have as much bulk as Ogre. But Urshifu does drop, but that's pretty good into Ogre. Okay, and now I can go into my Miraidon here. I could just go for a D-Gleam here, but I'm not sure if that actually kills. So what I'm just going to do is just pivot out from the Landorus, switch out, preserve it later against the Kyogre. Let's just go into Calyrex first, right? We can take a water attack, okay, and live to tell the tale. There's Ice Beam, so he was actually just going for the Miraidon kill there. But there's this Calyrex. Now we can go for Reflect, and then we can go for Foul Play later, right? There's a Mungus. This is fine. I always click Glacial Lance every day of the week here. We have the faster Calyrex, which is good to know. We are Adamant. He's probably Brave. Who knows? Or maybe he's just not max speed or not as much speed investment to his Adamant. Maybe just 1 point. Anyway, Glacial Lance at +1 we just pick up, and now Foul Play also just picks up. His Calyrex cannot do enough damage here. Yeah, exactly. See? Grimmsnarl eats that. Our Calyrex eats that. There's the Foul Play, and there it is. Calyrex does drop there to our own Grimmsnarl. You see the power of Foul Play in screens. It's so good right now. All right, so this one is a Shadow Rider Zamazenta pairing with the Ditto there. So you could even have a third restricted if you really wanted to. But again, this is also where Grimmsnarl is looking really good here. Just for light screen support, we have Foul Play pressure into Iron Hands there, or even Zamazenta. But realistically, light screen and Thunder Wave is going to be really good against his Shadow Rider. Then that's really all we want out of our Grimmsnarl here, just to maintain the balance and damage mitigation. I want to start with Ursh first, just to get a breaker on the field. There's Zamazenta, right? And then there's this Calyrex. So we can go for an easy play here. Okay, I can go Terra, so I don't want to die to Psychic. I'm going to go Reflect from against the Zom. He does go for Astro. It does a lot. Okay, he is Life Orb, but I do live because I have some investment on my Ursh. I do, Grimmsnarl survives Body Press because we have Reflect. And he went for Terra Water, right? So he's already committing the Terra into the Calyrex. So now I Thunder Wave it. I can take out one of his restricted here. He clicked Imprison on his Zamazenta. What he's imprisoning, I couldn't tell you, but he clicked Imprison. All right. Strange enough, there's the Ditto. Okay, he copies my Ursh. Right, so all I have to do is just Thunder Wave that. And then there's another Body Press. He just ignores the Ursh. He's really concerned about the Grimmsnarl, which means free damage into his Zamazenta. This does more than half. So yeah, we're just kind of chilling now. There's the Surging Strikes. Of course, he picks up our Ursh. But listen, we've got Miraidon on the field coming in, right? But I'm going to go Calyrex first, and then here's the Miraidon, right? So now we get our restricteds here. And now we can just start nuking. All right, there's Wyguard. I don't know why he thinks I would click that move, but he did. All right, here we go. Goodbye, Zamazenta. Second restricted down. High horsepower, a little bit of chip. Ditto takes a lot of damage. Now he has his own Iron Hands here. Okay, still fine. He fakes out the Miraidon, which is okay. And now, again, he gets paired. I just go for a high horsepower into the Iron Hands. Does more than 50%, which is good. Then he just clicks Aqua Jet. Why he does that, I'm not sure. But Electro Drift into Ditto looks really good. But then again, high horsepower also is strong into the hands. And I get to outspeed it, so that way I did know that he is either Brave or he is Adamant, but not max speed there. So anyway, good job from Grimmsnarl. Again, clicking Thunder Wave. So again, the light screen support is also really good. Same thing with Reflect too. All right, this one is Mewtwo Kyogre. We're doing some interesting combinations here. That is a Volbeat there. All right, so again, Foul Play Grimmsnarl with light screen looks really good here. Okay, and the damage mitigation is so huge here. And then Calyrex and Miraidon are also pretty cool. You could almost argue that you don't even bring Calyrex to this, and maybe you just bring something like Ogerpon or even like a Farigiraf for like another support option here. But anyway, we have to bring Calyrex because it's a restricted. But anyway, here's Mewtwo, here's Incin. That's okay. We have Grimmsnarl, we have a Miraidon here. So Fake Out could come out. Mewtwo could have a pretty big damage dealing move with Life Orb. He goes Terra Stellar. Mewtwo does Fake Out Miraidon. I'm going to go with Light Screen. Okay, clicks Earth Power, right? Which does get revealed. Does a lot, but not enough. It's not even Life Orb either, right? So there's Indeedee. Changing terrain. Might go for Expanding Force here. All right, just want to pivot out. Okay, and just come back into Calyrex here. If he did go for Expanding Force, we're going to resist it, and it's not going to do damage to Grimmsnarl. Just goes for another Earth Power, which is okay. But now look at the power of Foul Play. That's a lot of damage there into Mewtwo. Goes for Follow Me again. Goes for Dark Pulse. Does do a lot, okay? But we have Light Screen, and Mewtwo is not as strong as a Calyrex. So here we go. Glacial Lance. I don't need to set up Trick Room. I just want both KOs here, okay? Now I'm +2. Okay, and now Kyogre comes back in, which is fine. I have Miraidon. There's Incin again. This is also okay. I can just protect this turn from the Fake Out and just do stuff with Grimmsnarl. I can chip. I can click Thunder Wave. Okay, just goes for Water Spout as expected, but look, it doesn't even kill Grimmsnarl. Now I click Foul Play, his Water Spout's not doing as much. Knockoff does not kill. Alright, Grimmsnarl is the GOAT here. Okay, does do Water Spout. Again, I'm very surprised. Maybe he just didn't want to miss. I would expect Origin Pulse, but he does do it, get the double up, and he does KO. But that's fine. Again, I have Iron Hands, and I have Miraidon over here. Okay, I get my terrain back. I'm +1 Iron Hands again. Now here is where I kind of like could have thrown here. I could have just faked out the Instant and just nuked the Kyogre realistically, but I went for Instant. I don't know why I did that. Maybe I thought he had Protect, but I soon to find out that he does have Scarf. So that's just on us. But you know, it's very easy to just fake out and just hit the Kyogre realistically there, right? But now he's kind of cooked here. Again, just keep drifting and just keep clicking Drain Punch there onto the Instant. He actually has his own Drain Punch, which is funny. But we show him who is the superior Drain Punch user. So Iron Hands behind screens is able to soak up a lot and, you know, just clean things up with Miraidon in the end game here. So the next variant that I want to show you actually uses the same 5 that we had for a while now, like Farigiraf, Ogerpon, and Iron Hands. But instead of like Urshifu or even instead of like Grimmsnarl here, I like Iron Bundle. Okay, I've seen this variant as well, and I think it's also quite good here, especially if you don't even choose to use the Whimsicott here, just because Iron Bundle, you know, with the base 136, you're able to outspeed the other base 135s by 1 point there. And I just think, you know, with the Focus Sash here and being able to, you know, go with the Encore idea, right? So like, here we go, Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, okay, Encore, and then just straight up Protect, I think is actually really, really good. Now, you could go a couple Terras here. You can go Terra Ghost here. You can also go Terra Normal here if you want, just to avoid, you know, the Calyrex shenanigans there. I think both Terras are really, really good, depending on what you feel as something that you want to do with Iron Bundle. But otherwise, Terra Ghost does look pretty good here, all things considered, right? So you could definitely do that. But either way, I still think you do 252, 252 Iron Bundle, just because. All right, and we go to Nature here. Okay, but feel free to try out either or. Now, the Miraidon here, we can just simply go back to just, you know, going 252, 252 Modest. You know, just a standard Miraidon set here. Farigiraf stays the same. So does Calyrex here. I think you can even go back to Helping Hand here, right? And then with the Ogerpon, I like my first set a little bit more. Again, I'll just go Jolly 100 again for the Kyogre speed. 188 investment into my HP along with 52 defense. Survive the Surging Strike to Urshifu, Terra Water stuff. 156 Jolly attack, and then just 2 points into Spidef just to round out our numbers there. And then the Iron Hands mostly stays the same here. Same set with Terra Bug here. So this is another variant, right? And you can get control with the bundle clicking Icy Wind. You can break Sash this way, especially against, you know, something like a Chenpao, and then just nuke it with Miraidon, or you even click Volt Switch, get out first, and bring in something like Calyrex next turn. Encore, very strong from the bundle. You know, especially the fact that it's non-prankster means you can click this into a dark type, which is really, really good. But I do like something like this. I think you might see some variants of this going around here. But let me show you one game where it does come in handy, just to show you the strength of Iron Bundle. Okay, this one is just one test game here. So I just want to show you the power of Iron Bundle clicking Encore stuff. He's got Miraidon, and he has a similar build. Look, he looks like our Grimmsnarl build almost, right? Grimmsnarl, Ogerpon, Iron Hands there. At least the other variant. And he's got Chenpao, and he's got a Necrozma Dustmane. Why not just use Zacian at this point? Like, what is the Dustmane giving you that Zacian does not? But again, you do have access to Trick Him, I guess. But at that point, use Lunala, right? But anyway, either way, I still think I like Bundle into this because, look, I got Icy Wind against his Chenpao. I have Freeze Dry for his Miraidon there. I can Icy Wind and then use my own Miraidon to kill their Miraidon. But I also have Freeze Dry into the Iron Hand, the Ogerpon there. So lots of stuff. If he doesn't lead Grimmsnarl, you know, again, we can always just Encore that if we have to, right? So anyway, there's Miraidon and there is Necrozma. So I have Icy Wind pressure against their Miraidon, which is really good. And he realizes this, right? So he switches out into his Iron Hands, right? So he's scared. He's afraid. So there's the Icy Wind. Decent chip. Okay, and now we Volt Switch the Necrozma here. Okay, I knew he would kind of be scared of that about this. So we get rid of the Necrozma. That thing had like no bulk, bro. I'm very surprised. Anyway, Iron Hands comes out. There's Ogerpon. So this is where we do the Encore stuff. So I'm going to Protect first to bait out something. Okay, he does Spiky Shield. He's afraid of Fake Out. Okay, which is fine. Okay, the Iron Hands clicking body rest. This is where like Terra Ghost looks really good here, right? But anyway, Encore that. So that thing is useless now. And now we just click low kick there. We get a crit. You know, it does have a defense boost there. Oddly enough, I just noticed that, right? You know, it's not attack boost. It's actually a defense boost with body press. But interesting set there. But he does have protect also. So I could Encore that if I really wanted to. But again, why do that when I can just kill him, right? So now he's in range. I just freeze dry down. I know he's not AV. Okay, and now Dazzling Gleam picks up my bundle. That's fine, but you know, now we just click low kick into the Miraidon and we just kind of win from there. So like Iron Bundle was causing so much damage here, and we didn't even need to use my Miraidon or my Calyrex Ice Rider. Okay, one other thing that I think you can also do is just include Dark Urshifu into, you know, these teams, just because there's so much Ice Rider. There is so much Ice Rider. There's so much Shadow Rider now. There's also like Lunala teams running around, and even like some Magenta stuff. So like I think Darkful looks really good here. So still the same core, right? Just instead of like Iron Bundle here, you can just slap on Dark Urshifu. Gives you a better matchup into some of the other restricteds here. And otherwise, you know, just like Fake Out with Wicked Blow is just so strong, again, because of Unseen Fist. So you could just make some trades early on and just clean up with either of these guys in the end game. So I think it's really good. And, you know, just to show you some squads that this can do really well. I'm going to show you in a couple test games here, but I do think Dark Urshifu can belong onto this core here. All right, so this is another Rayquaza team here, but this time he's got the Shadow Rider. So this is where something like Dark Urshifu looks really good here. It's got a Wo-Chien there. I'm not sure why he has that, especially when you have like Rayquaza Chien-Pao here, but yeah, okay. And he also has his own Urshifu here, but I do like Iron Hands Urshifu lead here just to like force Fake Out stuff. Maybe even Terra Ghost here from the Chien-Pao. Right, he's doing Chien-Pao Rayquaza stuff. So if I can just Fake Out the Rayquaza here, I could have also just technically Wicked Blowed this thing, right? Or maybe force him to switch into Calyrex. But he stays in. Crits my Iron Hands with the Ice Spinner, unfortunately. But I whiffed the close combat, right? So that's okay. That's still fine. But now we get Sucker Punch there. Make him do some chip damage. And, you know, Ice Spinner, we obviously live because I know he only just crit the first time. Yeah, I know he's greedy for the Urshifu, right? So, you know, he does go for that instead, and now we just give it to Chien-Pao, which is good, right? That was one of the main enemies for Miraidon. He has his own Urshifu here, so I'm going to have to make a call here. I'm going to go into Calyrex and just double swap into Miraidon also, just because I know he wants to click like E-Speed stuff or even like Dragon Ascent. So there's the Aqua Jet. Okay, there's Dragon Ascent. Tons of damage, even though I resist it, right? But he goes into Wo-Chien, wanting to reduce my damage. But again, I just go Terra Fairy here. I click Dazzling Gleam, and there's not a whole lot Wo-Chien can really do here, except take damage here. I could have even clicked Glacial Lance to this extent, right? But anyway, yeah, I probably should have just clicked Glacial Lance, but I clicked Trick Room. But yeah, but now I just realized that, you know, again, he doesn't even bring the Calyrex. He's afraid. He's afraid of the Dark Urshifu. He's afraid of Trick Room. And now we just clean up here. Even if he opted to go for my Miraidon there, I have Iron Hands and friends waiting for him. But here's the Rayquaza. And he just kind of forfeits here. So yeah, again, I had Fake Out pressure waiting, and then I could have done other things, but you know, he got scared of the Dark Urshifu. He didn't even bring his Shadow Rider. One more with the Darkfu variant here. So he's got Zacian here. Zacian Miraidon is another pairing that I think could do relatively well here, just because again, Zacian puts pressure against the Ice Rider, which is again an Ice type that Miraidon doesn't really like to see. And from here, he's got Chien-Pao, Iron Hands, and he's got Farigiraf. He's got the Miraidon core. And this is what I said about the other guy who had like Grimmsnarl stuff with, you know, the Necrozma, right? I feel like just Chien-Pao Zacian is much better with something like this, right? And now he has Whimsicott here. I feel like you could do that. You know, maybe Whimsicott might be a little bit better instead of Talonflame. But anyway, either way, I still like his comp. I think it's much better than the Necrozma one. So I don't think we need to bring the Darkfu. I think we have to bring everything else, especially Iron Hands here. But we'll just have to see how we position this. So I'm going to go with Iron Hands in the get-go. I'm going to go Miraidon. He's going to go with Zacian. Okay, and he has the Farigiraf here. So, okay. So Zacian's going to outspeed. You know, unfortunate for me. So I can't even click Fake Out here. He goes for Play Rough. He takes out the Iron Hands immediately. He doesn't even care about the Miraidon here. I'm just going to go with Volt Switch. I pivot out. That could have been bad. I could have just lost Miraidon immediately, right? And so he led very, very well. He clicked Trick Room. Now I go into Miraidon here. I could have also brought in Calyrex here, but again, Fire Ogerpon also looking good. Goes Terra Dragonization, something you normally don't see. But there is a Terra Dragon on the board. Ivy Cudgel, good damage. We get a crit, does resist. But we just remove Farigiraf here. We're banking on the Play Rough into Miraidon. So I'm just going to go into Calyrex. Okay, and that's exactly what he does. Like, +1 Play Rough still hurts. Like, look at this. That's still pretty decent damage there. But there's the Iron Hands. You know, there's Protectization. That's okay. Low Kick, I know we live. Just because I know the damage calc roll from the Iron Hands. Free Glacial Lance damage is what I'm expecting here, putting it in range of the high horsepower, but I know he's faster, right? So there's another Drain Punch. That's fine. I just need the Zation off the board here so Miraidon can clean up later. That's exactly what happens here, right? So one more turn of Trick Room. There's Miraidon. This is fine. I go for Follow Me. Okay, Drain Punch does a lot, but again, I outspeed the Miraidon. I click Glacial Lance and it just dies. So yeah. Anyway, but that's gonna do it for this one. Like, it was pretty scary. He could have easily targeted my Miraidon turn 1, and I guess leave my Iron Hands alone. But you know, I would have had to rely a little bit more on Calyrex and Ogerpon if he did do that. All right, one more variant that I do want to show with Miraidon Calyrex to get you started here is the Pelipper Urshifu variant. So you can actually have Pelipper here, which can do well with Calyrex just because of the range support that it gets, and you also get a wide guard on the Pelipper here. So, you know, you as a Miraidon player, you know, you fear the Astro Barrage, you fear the Glacial Lance, of course, but if you have Pelipper clicking wide guard support, and then at the same time controlling weather against the core Rhydon teams, that's going to be great for you. And then to take advantage even more, this is where the Urshifu Rapid Strike can also help you out here. Now, you also have the option, because this is the Rapid Strike here. I do like Choice Scarf here, and we have Surging Strikes, we have Close Combat, and then U-Turn is very, very good, especially, you know, in cases where it's not looking great for Urshifu as like the starting board position. You have the option to just strictly go, you know, Aqua Jet, you know, just for a little bit more pickup damage, or you can go for coaching, okay? And look at your coaching targets. You can coach the Calyrex here. You can also coach your Iron Hands, right? And give it an even more of an attack boost. And then you could also just give this thing a defense boost, and then it just doesn't die. You can also just do something like that if you really need to. Otherwise, I think Aqua Jet is just always like really, really good just for like a little bit more extra damage. But if you need coaching, then I think coaching is also like solid. But yeah, I'll leave it to you, to each their own. Anyway, but stuff like this I think can still pretty much stay the same, you know, with our same spreads here. The Pelipper can go Focus Sash very easily here and just go Terra Ghost. And then just, you know, Hurricane and Weather Ball damage, Wide Guard. And then I still like Tailwind. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you can go Fast Mode here, especially with Urshifu. And same thing with like Iron Hands and whatnot. So I still like Tailwind on this. Otherwise, you can just simply go Protect here. But I am going to go Timid, and I am going to go 252, 252. Okay. You can't go Modest here if you really want to, for a little bit more extra damage, especially. Otherwise, the Timid one does very, very well. But, you know, I'll put Modest here for now. But, you know, you can just change that later. As far as Urshifu here, same thing. Like Max Speed Adamant with the Scarf is what we want here. Okay, just to get something easy to going on ladder. But anyway, Sash Pelipper along with coaching Scarf Urshifu is something that you can definitely do with this. So now you have Weather Control, you have Wide Guard on your team, and you still have Speed Control with Tailwind. You still have Farigiraf clicking, you know, Trick Room stuff, which is really nice. And then you still have Calyrex over here. So you have Fake Out Pressure, Trick Room mode, Tailwind mode, Wide Guard. You have coaching here for physical boost here. So this is another variant that is also looking really good here. So let me show you a couple games with this. Okay, so this is actually a pretty funny one, right? So this is the Pelipper variant. So look at this. It's got Chi, it's got Rillaboom here. So like Pelipper is actually looking really nice because I have Weather Ball and Hurricane Pressure. Same thing with the Urshifu and the Ogerpons. Look at all the flying weaknesses to Pelipper over here. So I do like it as a lead here, especially if he does lead the Calyrex. So it's going to be Urshifu Calyrex. Funny enough, here's Pelipper, and here is my Miraidon. So funny enough, I forgot to put Drizzle on this thing. And at the time of testing, this was like Keen Eye, which is funny enough. So I'm just going to have to go Terra Fairy Miraidon here. He does click Protect, which is fine. So D-Gleam comes out, does a ton of damage into Urshifu. It is Sash, right? And he does Wicked Blow into my Miraidon. But now, guess what I clicked on Pelipper? I clicked Tailwind. So this is good for me. So now, Sucker Punch does come out here. That's okay. I click Dazzling Gleam. Calyrex, of course, just melts the Hurricane. I'm fortunate to hit it, right? So that's good. Now he just forfeits. He just lost Miraidon and Calyrex to one turn just to a Pelipper, which is kind of funny when you think about it. All right, so here's another Zamazenta Calyrex Shadow Rider variant. There is a Chiyu on the board. They got their own Iron Bundle, which is kind of scary a little bit, but we have the power of Pelipper here, okay? And it's going to come in handy, especially, you know, with Wide Guard and putting pressure onto the Chiyu and the Rillaboom if he does decide to bring it. So I do have the speed advantage because I have Tailwind, right? So I'm going to go with Pelipper and Miraidon here. He's going to go Bundle and Calyrex. So Freeze Dry is going to hurt Pelipper, but I do have a Sash. But, you know, my goal also is just to click Tailwind and outspeed everything. So I'm going to go Terra Fairy just in case he does do the double up. I'm going to go Wide Guard. He goes for Freeze Dry. As expected, I do take neutral damage. He goes for Psychic. Almost kills me. All right, he has Life Orb. All right, and, you know, maybe might run and rethink that calc, but I'm fortunate enough to survive. I'm going to go into Rapid Strike here. Okay, the fact that he did not click Astral, again, forced him to click Psychic instead. But here we go. Surging Strikes picks up the Calyrex here. And now, if he does have, you know, a Chiyu Scarf in the back, and this is why also I click Tailwind here. I live the Body Press from the Zamazenta. And now, let's see what he's got. He still has Terra available. There's the Chiyu. I can hit the Zom. I can hit the Chiyu. All right, he goes Terra Grass Chiyu. All right, he's able to resist my Urshifu here, but this is still more than half. He has to kill the Urshifu if he wants to live to see another day. Hurricane, good damage into Zom, almost 50%. Does get rid of Ursh. That's fine. He does get a crit. Didn't even need it. All right, Snarl is good. Breaks my Sash. I do less damage. Okay, but now I go Miraidon here, and I'm faster. I click the only move I can click and just click not the spread move, but the single target move, which is Electro Drift, right? And then a Hurricane definitely picks up from here. I know that, even though I'm like -1 here. All right, and he has no choice but to forfeit. Notice how he did not bring Rillaboom, okay? He brought the Calyrex, he brought the Zom, but no Rillaboom because he's scared of the Ice Rider, and maybe even just scared of Pelipper in general. All right, so now let's put all the pastes on the board one more time here. And again, all of these are going to be available in the video description below. So feel free to grab one of them and test it out. So this way you can get a good feel of how the pairing is and how the rest of the format looks like. But the first one here is the standard build with the Whimsicott, Iron Hands Farigiraf, and the Pokemon Heartflame. I call this the standard Miraidon Calyrex Ice. So if you want to experiment with this one, you can. It's just pretty much Miraidon 5, you know, with the Calyrex Ice Rider on it, which, you know, is still like pretty good, all things considered. The next idea is the Grimmsnarl idea. So we have two Grimmsnarls. This one is with the Urshifu Rapid Strike, and this one is also still with the Iron Hands instead of the Urshifu. I like this version a little bit more than the Urshifu, but I think Urshifu is still like really, really good, you know, behind screens at the end of the day. So you can definitely do this. I do like Grimmsnarl in this format just because of the damage reduction that you have all around, especially with 2 restricteds now. I think you'll definitely see a little bit more Grimmsnarl than you did in Regulation G, where there was just 1 restricted. Okay, the bundle variant is also really strong right now, especially with the Quark Drive boost with Miraidon here, so you can outspeed the other base 135s, click Icy Wind, and do some shenanigans with Encore like we showed you in our test game there. And then after that, it's just like standard stuff, you know, the same Miraidon, Calyrex Ice, Iron Hand stuff that you'll be finding. This one is the Dark Urshifu variant. By the way, this is Imprison Farigiraf, by the way. I forgot to mention that, but you can definitely do Imprison on this and just kind of stop other Trick Room teams, you know, from setting up. But Dark variant is also really nice against the Lunala, the Shadow Riders, force out Terra Ghosts, and then maybe they don't Terra, they're restricted. If they do Terra Ghosts on something like a Chenpao or something like an Incineroar, for example. But yeah, you can definitely force out some Terras that way. But I think Fake Out with Urshifu is just very, very strong right now, especially. And then finally, the last one. This is the Pelipper variant, the Rain Weather Control, boosting their Urshifu here. You have coaching on this, so you can boost up the Iron Hands and your own Ice Rider as well. Otherwise, Pelipper having Wide Guard and Tailwind is super strong. You know, especially with the Sash, right? And Terra Ghost. So this way you don't get like quote unquote faked out. But I think all of these are very good and solid starting points for, you know, the pairing in itself. Okay, so that's it. And if you're still interested in building your own Regulation I team, if you're going to a regional, if you're going to a local tournament, if you need something for ranked ladder play, you know, we've got you covered on the channel. Sign up for coaching with the tier 3 sub. If you look in the video description below, or if you looked at the pinned comment section, there is a link to join the channel. with that tier 3 sub. And then from there, you can join the Discord and reach out to us on Discord, and we can plan a session to build a squad with full EVs, just like what we've been doing in this video. So if that is something that you're interested in, feel free to reach out to us, and we will assist where we see fit. Okay, but you know, you can join the Discord for free. Like, that is not necessary, you know, with the tier 3 sub. But you know, we have over 1,000+ members in our community. So if you're looking for other VGC members to spar with, I think we have something for you if we have over 1,000 members in our community. Okay, so that's it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.